digital privacy is huge right now. We don't really think about it a lot. I definitely recommend checking more from the EFF, Electronic Frontier Foundation. But no, like, there really is a massive amounts of privacy concerns with our devices, with how the law treats that, and a lot of issues going on right now.
We are always trying to make sure you guys have some kind of tool or whatnot. So in the case of anxiety or depression, you know, we talk about mindfulness, or we talk about open monitoring, meditation, things like that, or we'll talk about exercise. We'll talk about things with that. In this case, tech hygiene, the ability to go through and be online in a safer way, especially in a post Roe v. Wade world, is fucking important. Hey everyone. So real quick, if you were just joining us, we were just talking about before the Roe v. Wade stuff and kind of went on a big rant, both me and Zena. Mm-hmm. Please watch that video first. They should come out in the proper order, but if for some reason we screw up, just be aware. This video is something of a supplement to this, and that is that, you know, we can talk about the legal precedent of what's going to happen, but we should probably talk about something that a lot of people aren't. Could period tracking apps be dangerous in a post-Roe v. Wade US? So essentially, if this has the proper thing, Elizabeth C. McLaughlin, she, her, is an attorney and activist who posted, if you are using an online period tracker or tracking your cycle through your phone, get off it and delete your data now. We've talked about websites before, such as, you know, some of the hotlines and the like, that are not bound by HIPAA. They are not controlled through any kind of privacy, and they have a tendency to sell your data. It stands to reason that there's a very real concern with these types of apps that you are used to track period flow, because theoretically, if there is a change in your flow that's incredibly drastic and that information was to end up in the wrong hands, someone could say that you had an abortion even if there was no physical evidence of such.
So the most famous, reading the line from here, the most famous and popular of these period tracking apps, Flow, was found to have shared the health data of its users with marketing and analytics companies between 2016 and 2019, as reported by the New York Times, which mentions a complaint filed by the FTC in January 2021. That's huge. When we're talking about these apps, I know it seems simple to just be like, well, why do you need this anyways? Some people know we really do have to actually like have ways to keep track of our cycles. All right. If you, especially when like I'm dealing with PMDD, premenstrual dysphoria disorder. Okay. No. Knowing what day and getting a notification of when, you know, PMDD is about to start is huge. It gives me a leg up. I can, you know, make the right plans with Jess, so that way we're not like overdoing it.
So
this also alerts you to other health issues.
Yeah.
You know, so this really does mess with you. Okay.
So if you're working with a therapist, Tiamat mentioned HIPAA.
Yeah.
I actually just redid my HIPAA training. So if you are working with a therapist and they are using an app like, say, Doxy or Spruce or Signal, these are apps that you can, in many cases, get an agreement with that says that they are using HIPAA-compliant technology to guarantee safety of your data. This is also true with things like therapy notes or other things that can be used as a means by which to kind of hold data of clients. The problem with these apps is they don't have anything like this. There's nothing requiring them to do so. After a settlement was reached with the FTC, Flow agreed to undergo an independent review of its privacy practices and asked for users to consent before sharing their health information with third-party companies. That's not bad, but basically, long story short is, according to a privacy audit in March 2022, found no gaps in Flow's privacy practices, and the company now says that they do not share data with third parties. But activists are now concerned about something worse than having their personal data monetized. If you think that your data showing when you last menstruated isn't of interest to those who are about to outlaw abortion, who do I have a wake-up call for you? Progressive attorney and activist Elizabeth McLaughlin tweeted this, as we said earlier. So here's the thing. Depending on the legal restrictions of each state, because if Roe v. Wade is actually overturned as they're planning, it would go back down to the states. And if some of these states want to classify abortion as homicide, for those who aren't playing or who are playing the home game, is a felony, which means theoretically they could subpoena these records. Such proposed legislation gives the full picture of how high the stakes are for women using period tracking apps whose intimate health data could potentially be shared for those wanting to prosecute them and put them in jail for life, or even sentence them to death. Again, you can be killed for aborting your fetus. Think about that. Think about the utter insanity of this.
Yep.
Local governments officials have invested in mental labs in red states. There is your legal issue. To some degree, yes, but again, it would come down to how they're able to get that information and whether those apps are going to give stuff up.
I think that is what they're saying.
They're not even trying to hide the fact they're trying to attack women. True. I'll have to wait for Cassandra to clarify.
Yeah, I can't.
Because that's ambiguous. So, Zena has it right. All right, well, fair enough. But period tracking apps are not the only reason why people seeking abortion should be wary of their phones. Locations, Google searches, chat histories can all be used to determine whether someone has visited an abortion clinic or even if they are considering having to do so. You should not be sending any of these things through an electronic device unless you are using something like Signal or something else that is going to be protected.
So it is actually really difficult to even like de-Googlify your phone, but the more you can turn off these services, the more you can delete the data, the more you can not use them and be aware of what data tracking is actually happening, the better. It is difficult to get all of it, but again, the more you can do, the better. There are definitely, like just said, Signal does not hold any of your data, so it is only between your device and, the other device that's encrypted. They literally do not have it to send to anyone, so no one could like subpoena them to get it. But yeah, I would start looking into more things that don't share data. So in my industry, our sexual health is dependent on the companies we work with. They don't have to ensure us privacy when it comes to data. They don't have to ensure us privacy when it comes to data collection. In fact, our sexual health is a part of sex workers' database. Huh.
Yeah, that does bring us some interesting questions about the possibility of accidental pregnancy in sex work or porn, right? That gets weird.
I'd be curious to know more later for another
All right, let's move on.
segment for that, yeah.
There are precedents of people, including private citizens as well as police, buying data to investigate abortions and identify people who have visited Planned Parenthood clinics. This week, Vice revealed the results of an investigation that found that a location data firm was selling data revealing where people who had visited a Planned Parenthood came from and where they went afterwards to anyone who would spend $160. So for the cost of a cheap anime statue, you too can find out if someone aborted their fetus. Whether the secrets contained in people's phones could be used against women seeking a prohibited abortion in a post-Roe v. Wade future is still uncertain, but it remains a grim possibility. Again, we don't have to go into this one deep, but this is also a thing. Gay dating app Grindr still leaking its users' location data, reports indicate. So again, another example of data being used. Grindr is still giving up people's location data, putting them at risk for stalking, gay bashing, and robbery. Cybersecurity firm Pentest Partners was able to precisely locate users of 4 popular dating apps, including Grindr, Romeo, Recon, and the polyamorous site 3Fun, and says a potential 10 million users are at risk of exposure. The risk level is elevated for LGBT plus communities. Oh, that's true. They just went to a Planned Parenthood. They could have literally gone there to get condoms. That's true. Who use these apps in countries with poor human rights, where they may be subject to arrest or persecution. So again, if you're a marginalized group, these apps are there's already precedent of them being used against you. In a post-Roe v. Wade world, we know that even if the government is not going to come down on you, if they make the laws similar to the one in Texas for trans kids, or not trans kids, what was it? was it what was the one where they had basically they turned citizens into bounty hunters?
No, it was Texas with abortions.
That was abortions. That's right.
It still was. It turned it into a civil suit.
So all you need is a tech savvy person to go through here and figure out a way to actually get into your location data and then just report you.
Yeah, I mean, there's more complicated stuff, but yes. John Oliver did a segment recently with this stuff, honestly, about Congress. And
guys, I know what Planned Parenthood does. Let it go. Most data app users know some location information is public. It's how the apps work. But pen test says few realize how precise that information is and how easy it is to manipulate. Imagine a man showing up to a dating app as 200 meters away, 650 feet away. You can draw a 200-meter radius around your location on a map and know he is somewhere at the edge of that circle. If you then move down the road and the same man shows up within 350 meters away and you move again and he's 100 meters away, you can then draw all of these circles. Yeah, it's triangulation on the map at the same time where they intersect, exactly revealing his location. This is just a thing you can do. So Grindr's naughty and shouldn't be doing this. So how do we deal with this shit? So Zena brought this up. This is from the Electronic
Frontier Foundation.
Digital Security and Privacy Tips for Those Involved in Abortion Access. Zena, do you want to read some of this? I can make it bigger?
Yeah, I'm just... How much is...
It's not...
there's a decent amount here.
Where do we want to go into this? So, again, we can talk about some of the things. So, one of the things they talk about is different ways. You guys can read the article yourselves, but different ways you can take care of this. Why don't we read some of these examples and people can read the rest on their own?
Yeah, so I think the big part is risk awareness and keeping a routine of your data private and secure takes practice, right? Mm-hmm. So one, we'll kind of go through the tips if that sounds good.
That's what I was thinking. We recommend pairing these with specific guides highlighted here. They have a link. To be clear, it is virtually impossible to devise a perfect security strategy, but good practices can help. 1, compartmentalization. Do you want to read that first paragraph?
Yeah. In essence, this is doing your best to keep more sensitive activities separate from your day-to-day ones. Compartmentalizing your digital footprint can include developing the habit of never reusing passwords, having separate browsers for different purposes, and backing up sensitive data onto external drives.
So real quick, they talk about a couple things here. I highly recommend things like LastPass and that, so you don't even know your password. All of my passwords, and Zena's as well, are just random letters, numbers, and symbols. We don't know them. They're saved in a database. Some of my passwords are as long as, 99 characters. Some of them are as low as 12. But that's a really good thing. They also talk about
using different browsers. So things like DuckDuckGo, Brave, and Firefox are all, better for more sensitive activities. It can keep your data from spilling over into different aspects. Because again, cookies, tracking, all that stuff is a thing. Secondary email address or phone number to register sensitive accounts.
Google Voice is a free secondary number if you need such a number. Proton Mail and Tutanova are free email services that have privacy protections. I also know that Hushmail exists. Having a VPN, super helpful, super based.
The big thing with VPN though is if they are kind of selling themselves as cure-all solutions, be careful with those. Definitely check into what VPN you're using because yes, some do keep logs and some don't, which would defeat the purpose if they were keeping logs.
Yeah, do your research. And make sure they're not going to give up that information even if they do keep logs. Just, again, do your research.
And if you're going to or from a location that's more likely to have increased surveillance, or if you're particularly worried about who might know you're there, turning off your devices or their location services can help keep you private.
Yep.
Community agreements.
You want me to read this one?
Yeah.
It's likely that others in your community share your digital privacy concerns. Deciding for yourself what information is safer to share with your community, then coming together to decide what kind of information cannot be shared outside the group. It is a great non-technical way to address many information security problems. Think of this in 3 levels. What information should you share with nobody? What information is okay to share with a smaller, more trusted group? And what information is fine to share publicly? These are good critical thinking questions about interacting with your data. Recommendations: come up with special phrases to mask sensitive communications. Push a culture of consent when it comes to sharing data of one another, be it pictures, personal information, and so on. Ask for permission is a good way to establish trust and communication. Love that.
Particularly ask permission first.
Agree to communicate with each other on more secure platforms such as being offline or Signal. Signal's a great app for doing SMS, that is text message communication, in a much more protected way, but both people have to have it because it's peer-to-peer, if I remember correctly. Safe browsing, again, we covered this. Origin, uBlock, Privacy Badger, DuckDuckGo. These are all privacy protecting ones.
They're particularly looking at preserving browser extensions on this one. Or privacy preserving browser extensions, yeah.
Yeah. Like
privacy focused search engine. Privacy settings on each app and account you use. Turn off any services on phones that don't need them.
By the way, Google recently put out a thing that actually, if something has permissions and it hasn't done anything, you haven't done anything with that app in a while, it'll ask you if you just want to turn them off, or it'll do it automatically for you. Really good service. Set that up on your Google account. I recently had that pop up and I was like, oh, that's really cool, because that means you don't have floating approvals out there.
That's fair, yeah.
Disable any ad identifier on mobile devices. Ad identifiers are specifically designed to facilitate third-party tracking. Disable them makes it harder to profile you. Fair. You can get them here and here. Might do that when we're done. Choose a browser that is more private by design. DuckDuckGo on mobile and Firefox with privacy settings turned up are good options. I use DuckDuckGo for everything. That's why you guys see that. It's a little slower than Google, and by slower, I mean like by a second or two. But
I don't think I've ever found that it's slower, and Jess also has like 800,000 tabs.
No, it's actually been demonstrably shown.
Has it?
Yeah, because the difference being is Google actually has all of their searches pre-done. When you search a particular...
I'm sorry. I thought you were saying the browser, not the search engine. Okay, so DuckDuckGo has a browser app and it's a search engine on its own with DuckDuckGo, right?
Yeah, I use the search engine for like basically everything.
But yes, it does not have all of the queries queued up because that's how Google gets it to you so fast, and also they're pre-planned in there. Okay, so that's why it's fraction but not really noticeable, you know. I think there's security checklist.
Yeah, that's I think the last one. I was just checking to see if there's more.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Make a to-do list of tools, techniques, and practices. Choose when you are doing anything that requires a bit more care when it comes to digital privacy and security. This is not only good to have so you don't forget anything, but is extremely helpful when you find yourself in more high-stress situations. We're trying to remember these things from the top of your mind is harder. So recommendations: tools, VPN for hiding your location, circumventing local internet censorship, encrypted messaging apps, anonymized credit cards for keeping financial transactions separate from your day-to-day persona, strategies: use special code words with trusted people to hide information in plain sight, check in with someone via encrypted chat when you're about to do something sensitive, turn off location services on your cell phone before going somewhere, and back up and remove sensitive data from your main device.
Yep. So again, there's more links here to use. There's more things here. But we want to make sure we always send you guys stuff. You know, if we're talking about psychology, we are always trying to make sure you guys have some kind of tool or whatnot. So in the case of anxiety or depression, you know, we talk about mindfulness, or we talk about open monitoring, meditation, things like that. Or we'll talk about exercise. We'll talk about things with that. In this case, tech hygiene, the ability to go through and be online in a safer way, especially in a post-Roe v. Wade world, is fucking important.
Absolutely. And I do want to... Someone mentioned, try not to get 1984 vibes here. Digital privacy is huge right now. We don't really think about it a lot. I definitely recommend checking more from the EFF, Electronic Frontier Foundation. But no, like, there really is a massive amounts of privacy concerns with our devices, with how the law treats that, and a lot of issues going on right now. I know we don't think about it because, like, our phone's just some box that we carry around that does awesome things and we see people in it. But there really aren't great legal protections out there for a lot of tech stuff. And there are other issues that we get into with data as well being advertised to you constantly is a really big one. Okay. And yeah, having this data somewhere on your device does mean that there's potential that it could be taken by somebody else or subpoenaed. You know, either or. Also put passwords on your phone. That too. So.
Yeah, so just take care of your stuff. Try to follow some of these examples. They'll be down in the links doc below. And just, we wanted to bring this up because, again, if you are a person who is AFAB and you are in the market for going camping, and you need to go camping outside of your state to another state, you should probably be careful about how you're talking about camping when you're online, because some of these things are tracking your data about camping. Got it? Cool. Anything else?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
All right, cool. See you next one. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, consider donating to us. You can support us on our website, transgirltherapist.org. You can also help us on our Patreon, link below, or you can become a member here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching.